Hey, welcome back to the podcast. I'm your host, Vana, founder of the Period Makeover Solution. In today's episode, we are going to be talking about HTMA retesting, what some of my recommendations around how often you should get an HTMA test, when you should retest, and kind of the important reasons as to why you want to do a retest. So, to just give some background information that's important, to really understand what HTMA testing is. If this might be your first episode of the podcast, or you've skipped prior HTMA episodes, or you just still don't really feel like you fully understand it, I want you to click back a couple of episodes to episode 100 because I do a deep explanation of what hair tissue mineral analysis is. And I'm not going to get into all of that again here in this episode. However, I do want to just remind you that when we're doing an HTMA test, we are looking reflectively back over the past 3 to 4 months of what your mineral levels are. And we use that information combined with the conversation that you and I have about what's going on, what are your concerns, what are your symptoms, what are your habits right now, what supplements are you taking right now. I take all of that into consideration, plus the new results that we have from the HTMA test, and I build for you a customized care plan. That care plan comes with recommendations for your diet, lifestyle habits, and supplements. So in terms of retesting, we want to give you and your body time to adjust to the care plan that I'm giving you, that I'm recommending. Number one, I want you to be able to have enough time to sufficiently and consistently implement what I am recommending for you. Then we need to, like I said, give the body time to adjust to that and allow for things to shift before we jump in to doing a retest right away. Now, could you retest in 3 to 4 months and be looking at new data on the test? Yes, because you would be, submitting a whole new sample of hair. And in that 3 to 4 month time frame, it's likely that that amount of hair that we are sending in is going to be new growth, unless you have like hair that grows really slowly. The reason that I don't have my clients do that is because I don't think it's enough time for us to make the best decisions in terms of how we tweak and change things and move forward. I prefer for my clients to take their care plan, implement it for 6 months, and then let's do a check-in and maybe retest. There's going to even be some questions that I would ask at that 6-month mark. Number one, I would want to know how consistent the person has been with implementing their recommendations. Number two, how are you feeling? What differences has the person noticed in their symptoms compared to when we started working together? How do they feel in general? If they feel like they have really, like in the last couple of weeks, really been making some progress and seeing some big changes, then we might want to push that retest off by another month or two and kind of see how things go, see how they're feeling. Because when I have that conversation with them and they're saying, yeah, I feel great, I'm noticing this is improving and that is improving, then there's really no reason at that point for us to want to tweak things that are currently in the plan. The other consideration would be if someone gets to the point that they feel like they have just kind of completely stalled with their progress. Maybe the first couple of months when they were implementing their care plan, they were noticing some big improvements with their symptoms, their periods were better. But then that 3rd month, 4th month, 5th month kind of hit, things kind of started to slow down. We're 6 months out now, and it's kind of like, well, I've been okay. I had those initial improvements, which I'm so thankful for, but now I feel like I'm still, like I've got other goals. I want to take this a bit further, and I'm not getting anywhere. I don't feel like I'm still making progress. That would be a reason for us to say, okay, let's go ahead, retest you, see what has changed, and then when I get the new results in, I would tweak their care plan. Now, people always want to know, like, is HTMA testing something that you have to then like do forever? And the answer is no, you don't have to do anything. It's not something that I recommend people just routinely do every 6 months. I do recommend that people do it once a year or anytime there are like big life changes or big changes in like their health status, their symptoms. Maybe somebody has a pregnancy and they recover postpartum and they're like, okay, it's time to check in. And it may or may not be, it probably is going to be, kind of at that year mark, but it might not be. And in that case, it's okay to retest, a little early. And at the end of the day, it really does always come back to how are you feeling? What symptoms are you having? What is our goal with testing? Whether it's the first time or the sixth time that we do it, we should always have the intention, like the reason we're doing the test is because we need data to tell us which direction we should go, what tweaks we should make, what things we should change. If that's not our goal, if if the if we're just testing to be testing, then that's not really the best use of your time, energy, or money. I wanted to share kind of an example of the importance behind retesting. Um, I have pulled up here two HTMA tests for a client. These were done about 9 months apart. So it's their initial test and then they repeated in 9 months. There are some really big differences in these two tests. Some things have improved and are better. Some things have shifted and do need some attention. And sometimes we do see these big shifts occur because when you start to work on your mineral status and you're trying to improve that, as you replenish minerals, your body is naturally going to start detoxing some heavy metals that it could have been hanging on to in place of the minerals. You start working on your mineral levels are sufficient, and the body no longer needs those heavy metals and it's able to efficiently detox those. So sometimes we will see shifts. Okay, so like I said, to just kind of give some tangible examples here. On this person's first test, we had an elevated calcium level high enough that they were considered to have a calcium shell. Um, to simply explain that in very simple, quick terms, when you have too high a calcium level, it makes it hard for things to get in and out of your cells, which slows down metabolism. It slows down the communication systems in the body. It slows down production of energy, all the things. So that was something that this person was working on in their initial care plan. When they retested, we actually see that that calcium level has gotten even higher. And one of the things that you also have to take into consideration is that we are not, as humans, we're not confined to a bubble. Life is happening and it's happening rapidly, over these 9 months. So we also have to take into consideration like what life events, what stressors, what environmental changes have occurred between these two tests. For this person in particular, they had had a pretty stressful event. And sometimes that we will see with acute stress or what could be considered traumatic events, calcium levels will rise. We saw an improvement in her magnesium level. We saw an improvement in her sodium level. Potassium actually stayed right at the same, which is kind of common. Potassium is one that even when you're putting in a good amount of effort, it is sometimes difficult to get the potassium level to raise. So it stayed the same in these 9 months. And that's good information for us to have because it tells us that, our efforts are working in the sense that the level didn't get any lower, but that for whatever reason, the body is still having a hard time retaining potassium. And we need to dig further into figuring out why that is. Now, on an initial test, Those are the four minerals that we are primarily concerned with: calcium, magnesium, sodium, and potassium, because they're the most important. But we get this entire report and we're looking at multiple different mineral levels here. I'm not going to count them right now, but there's about 20 different minerals here in this chart that we look at. We don't pay as much attention to all the others in that first test unless there's something that's just kind of like off the charts, out of whack. And the reasoning behind that is your macro minerals, that calcium, magnesium, sodium, potassium, they are so important that they need our attention first. And once we get them back into a better, more acceptable range, the other, what we call second level minerals or micro minerals, will naturally fall in line. So, with this person's initial test, we did have a zinc level that was off the charts high. Sometimes we see that with people that are using certain types of shampoo or having certain treatments put on their hair. So it's always a question that we ask up front, but that wasn't the case with this person. And they also weren't taking a supplement that contained zinc, because sometimes that can happen. This was just kind of a organically found very high zinc level, which often is linked to inflammation within the body and can also be attributed at times to some, there's lots of things that can cause inflammation in the body. Um, so that could like point us in the direction that we need to investigate a little further. Like maybe we need to look at their gut. Maybe we need to look at their blood sugar control. Maybe we need to evaluate them for like a parasite or something along those lines. Now, in addition, the other element that they had that was not super out of range, but just elevated a little bit, and one that, giving my clientele and what you guys are coming to me to learn about and work on, I always pay attention to, is copper. Now, she was technically within the okay range, but it was a little higher than optimal. Now, on her retest, when we look at copper and zinc, zinc improved. It actually came down by almost half, which was great to see, but copper almost doubled. And we had to have some conversations and figure out like why this could be happening, what this means, what symptoms do we have that are showing up and lining up with this. And that way we were, again, able to tweak her care plan and make adjustments. Some other key differences that we had here was that her sodium and potassium ratio improved. That one is important because we have that sodium and potassium pump on every single one of our cells, which is also a major contributor to what can come in and go out of the cell, and also our body's fluid balance, and whether we are swelling and bloating and hanging on to fluid, or if that is well regulated. Other big change that we saw here was not really I shouldn't say a big change. Other improvement that we did note here was some improvement in the sodium and magnesium ratio, which points us to her adrenals. So she had been putting in a lot of effort in these 9 months' time to regulate her nervous system, to try to better be able to manage her stress, and acknowledging and kind of examining the stress load that she had on herself, and had changed some things about her lifestyle and her responsibilities and all the things that she was saying yes to all the time, learning to say no to things, and that was okay. And so we did see an improvement here, that her adrenals basically were responding in a positive way to that. And although the level was still very low, we still got a lot of work to do there. I think one of the best things about an HTMA retest is sometimes the fact that you do see, even if they're small shifts, you get to see that these shifts are happening, and it helps you be like, okay, all of this work that I'm doing, all this effort that I'm putting in is actually helping me and is getting me closer to my end goal, getting me closer to feeling XYZ. And I think that that can be really encouraging. So that is kind of my summary on HTMA retesting. To quickly re-summarize what my recommendations around it are, get an initial test, repeat in about 6 months, and then yearly or as needed after that. So if you guys have any questions about that, feel free to reach out anytime. If you have, you know, period symptoms that you are battling, PMS that's disrupting your life, or you are struggling with some fertility issues, then I would love to support you. HTMA testing is a huge part of that for my clients and is one of the biggest things that helps us get our clients results. There is always a link in the show notes to book a Happy Hormones Clarity call with me where we can get on a call and you can kind of share a little bit about your story with me, what you have going on, what your symptoms are, what your goals are, and then I can give you some guidance and point you in the right direction. And if it makes sense, we can set up a plan for how we can work together. So that link is in the show notes. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and I'll talk to you next week.